By the time my mother called me a fool, I had already learned how to disappear quietly. That was probably the real problem. People get comfortable with silent children because silence looks like agreement from across the room. My stepsister, Ava, wanted a larger bedroom before starting college. Mine had better light, more closet space, and a bathroom attached. For weeks, conversations kept circling around temporary adjustments and making things work as a family. I should have realized earlier that the discussions never included me staying. The actual moment happened on a Tuesday night after dinner. My stepfather leaned against the kitchen counter scrolling through his phone, while my mother folded napkins no one used. Ava stood near the hallway pretending not to listen. Then my mother sighed dramatically and said, "You can't live here anymore. It's Ava's room now." I remember blinking once because the sentence sounded unfinished somehow. "What? You heard me?" she snapped. "Stop acting confused." My stepfather finally looked up then. "That's right," he said. "This place is for our family." My mother giggled afterward, not happily, nervously, like she already sensed the cruelty but hoped changing the tone would change the meaning. I looked around the kitchen, waiting for somebody to correct it. Nobody did. The strange thing is, I didn't feel anger first. I felt embarrassment. Because suddenly, years of small humiliations rearranged themselves into something obvious. Ava getting new furniture while I patched old things together. My mother calling me independent anytime I stopped asking for help. The way my stepfather introduced me as quiet instead of as a son. Useful people are often tolerated longer than they are loved. I went upstairs and started packing. Nobody followed me immediately because I think they expected resistance. An argument, a dramatic scene proving I still cared enough to fight for the room. Instead, I folded clothes into 2 duffel bags while the house stayed strangely normal downstairs. Television noise, laughter once. Cabinet doors opening and closing. I left around midnight carrying more chargers than sentimental objects because practicality had become instinct by then. At the door, my mother finally looked uneasy. "You're seriously leaving?" I adjusted the backpack on my shoulder. "You told me to." That's not what I meant. But it clearly was. The first 2 nights I stayed at a cheap motel near work. After that, a coworker let me sleep on his couch temporarily. I kept going to work every morning pretending nothing major had happened, because explaining family rejection out loud makes people uncomfortable in very specific ways. Mostly, though, I felt tired. Not devastated, just deeply, physically tired. Then 4 days passed, and the system started failing. The internet shut off first, not dramatically. The auto-payment card expired, and I was the only person who usually updated those things. Then my stepfather's contractor licensing portal locked because renewal reminders had gone to my email for years. A utility payment bounced after linked account protections expired. Tax documents sat unopened because nobody else knew where the login credentials were stored. I hadn't sabotaged anything. That part mattered to me. I simply stopped holding together things that no longer belonged to me. On Friday afternoon, my phone exploded with calls. Mom, Stepdad, unknown numbers, then pounding on the apartment door at my co-worker's place around dinner time. When I opened it, my mother was already crying. My stepfather looked furious in the unstable way frightened people sometimes do. "What the hell did you do?" he demanded immediately. Behind him, rain soaked through the shoulders of his work jacket. "Nothing," I said honestly. "The business account is locked out." "You handled all the compliance notices," my mother added quickly. "We can't access half the systems." There it was. Not "we shouldn't have kicked you out." Not "are you okay?" Just collapse management. My stepfather ran a hand through his hair aggressively. "You knew this stuff mattered." I looked at both of them standing there in panic and suddenly realized something that should have been obvious years earlier. They had removed me emotionally long before they removed me physically. The room became very quiet. Finally I said, "You removed me from the house before realizing I was holding it together." Nobody answered, because the sentence sounded less like revenge than documentation. My mother started crying harder after that, not dramatic sobbing, disoriented crying, like consequences had arrived in a language she didn't know how to argue with. I helped them recover some account access eventually. Sent passwords. Explained renewal procedures. But I never moved back. Weeks later, after renting a tiny studio apartment with stained carpets and unreliable heating, I unpacked the last box from my backpack. At the bottom sat an old house key still attached to a faded blue keychain. I held it for a long time, then placed it quietly in the drawer beside my bed instead of throwing it away. Not because I planned to return, just because some losses remain real even after you survive them.